You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and check us out online at beardedtheologians.com. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have the Reverend Justin Coleman, who's the Chief Ministry Officer at Cokesbury. And we're super glad to have him on. There's a lot of things going on at Cokesbury and within his ministry. And so we're excited to have you, Justin. And we want to give you a little chance to tell us about yourself and what you do and all the really cool things that are going on.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. It's great to be on the podcast today. Yes, Chief Ministry Officer at the Publishing House. Prior to coming here, I was a pastor in Houston, Texas. I had a multi-national congregation there that I served. And honestly, never thought I'd jump into the world of publishing and sales, but received an amazing call and had a great conversation with our president and publisher emeritus, Neil Alexander, and so the rest is history. But my work here at Cokesbury, and so the work includes the work of Abingdon Press and Cokesbury, and all together that is the United Methodist Publishing House. And so half of my work is human resources, and so that group reports up through me. And so much like a congregation, when you've got 400 plus staff members, there's a lot going on, right? And then another part of my role is using design thinking as a methodology as popularized by companies like IDEO or the Stanford School of Design, to empathize deeply with our constituency, with folks in local churches, and then to adapt products and services based on the needs that we discern through that empathetic approach. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. So aligning the people of the house to the people and policies of the house to the mission of the house, and then aligning the mission of the house with the ministry of the church.
That's a job description right there. That's awesome. I've had that job I've had that line at the end of all of my job descriptions, and whatever else they want you to do.
Exactly right. That's also awesome. Very true.
That's awesome. What's it like going from the local church ministry and being a pastor at a church to a job like this at the publishing house?
It's a great question. It feels like I'm using a different part of my brain a lot of the time. And so, there's language that you're used to using in whatever working environment. And then when you shift, this is a ministry of the church. The work of the publishing house, Cokesbury, Abingdon Press, has been ongoing since 1789. And though we are a religious nonprofit, we do function like a business, and we don't receive any apportionment dollars, and so we live off what we make. And so for me, the language of the deep language of business that you only use lightly in the life of a local church becomes the functional language today. So I'm always talking about profit and loss, always talking about margins, always talking about net operating revenues, always, just this is talk. And that's something that we don't do in the life of the local church, because here everything has to be driven by metrics, and everything has to have some kind of so if you're going to engage in something, it has to have a hopefully profitable, or at least a very missional outcome that can be defined. Sometimes in the life of the local church, you don't always think about these kinds of things. You're not always thinking about what something has to produce in order to be worth doing. So it's really been helpful for me I think as a pastor and a leader even.
Cool. How has the other side of that come in? You said you had that kind of switch in brain of, going from ministry to business, but how does that ministry begin to creep in? Because I know it does. It has to.
Yeah, it's got to. And I mean, the cool thing is this is a Christian business. And so I can begin staff meetings by talking about how we've seen God at work. Right. And even in the work of HR, which sometimes you think, man, sometimes that's a head scratcher because you're not always dealing with the most fun stuff. But so how do we see God in one another here? How do we think about our work, even in a business meeting, as ministry? How do we pray about, if we're up or down in a quarter, right? And so I do think that the pastoral work that naturally happens in the life of a staff has really been great for me to experience because, I preach to people who were involved in the business world every week, right? And had some sense of the challenges of that. But here you've got people who are saying, I'm trying to live out a deeply Christian vocation when I'm in accounts receivable and having to call folks like y'all and say, so you're a little bit late on your Cokesbury bill. What's up with that? And the conversation on the other side is not always that generous. And so, so how do I understand this as ministry? How do I see a sense of call and vocation in this? And it's really cool to have those conversations.
I agree. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead, Zach.
I was just going to say you're speaking to the business part of my brain. My undergraduate was in business. It's like, oh man, I love this because it's not every day we get to mesh the two and people actually understand. It's wonderful. It's so much fun.
It's great. I mean, this intersection of faith and work is something that I honestly think. When I think about my pastoral life, I just didn't spend enough time really deeply thinking through all of the implications of that. And when you look out at Christian writings, it's really hard to find people who spend a lot of time talking about this. I think one of the most recent books is one by Tim Keller, and that's kind of their thing out there at Redeemer Presbyterian, right, is doing this faith work conversation in Manhattan. And I just think, boy, more of us need to be doing this. And I think more folks from a Wesleyan perspective, I would love to see doing this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would.
So what's one of the coolest things you've ever gotten to do since being in this position? Like what's one of the cool?
So I love, you get to have some great time spent with all of the various authors that we read, and certainly in the Methodist sphere and even beyond. So, from hanging out with people like Jessica LeGrone or Mike Slaughter or Adam Hamilton, Willis Johnson, like people that are, doing fun stuff, to Rabbi Moffick, who, so it's great to have rabbis writing for us as well. And so some of it's just showing up in different places with cool people and hearing from their heart and their ministry. It's being able to get behind the scenes on a confirmation resource and talk about the theological formation around that, and even do fun things like do voiceovers for some of the videos. I've worked on this new Disciple Bible study, Disciple Fast Track, and I'm the Old Testament guy on that. So it's just, I don't know if I ever would have done that before, but it's cool to be able to live into that, particularly with the legacy of Zan Holmes, people like Zan Holmes and the Disciple family. So it's you just get to hang out with amazing people and be a part of amazing conversations. And for me, it's not only like the big names I love calling churches in the middle of Louisiana that would say, look, we are 45 minutes from anywhere anybody knows. We're here and we're a smaller church and feel kind of isolated. There's some cool stuff going on in our town. Let's talk about what we're doing with children. And to have this amazing conversation about how they're embracing people in their communities, and then thinking, all right, so how do we take some of that? How do we serve them better? How do we help that church? Those have honestly been some of the most fun conversations, being able to call in, Skype in, and sometimes show up in those places and talk about ministry literally all across the country. And in some cases, across the world.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, what actually kind of prompted us to bring you on here is that Zach and I were looking through the Cokesbury catalog, and we saw that you were also a model. And so,
that's also cool.
Like, you can add, like, you have potential being an actor, having voiceover, model.
That's right.
I mean, so like if this ministry thing didn't work out, you do actually have now like a third fallback career that could.
So, voice actor, I mean, some of the fun hilarity of the sermon slams and things like that. I don't know, maybe an acting career, and certainly a like plus size clergy. All right. Yeah, I had a buddy of mine snap a picture of a catalog, and he said, he just sent me the picture, texted it to me with a question mark, and I said, oh yeah, it's my short-lived modeling career. And he said, not short enough. Thanks for that, friend.
Just so you're aware, we snapped a picture, and Matt and I have just sent personal memes back and forth to each other. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, however I can make anyone's life better, I'm just game for it. So
That's right. You mentioned Sermon Slam a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that and kind of what that is and for our listeners and everything.
Well, I think particularly for the Cokesbury brand, it's important for a brand to be personal and not even, and to not always take itself so seriously. So just to have a little fun. And certainly we love pastors, we love clergy. And so we do these short videos for some products. And so various staff members might get up and say, hey, here's this book. Here are a couple things about it. And we put those on our YouTube channel. So I was filming some of those, and Matt Rawl, one of our authors, was in. And so Matt, a sometimes bearded theologian, Matt Rawl. So Matt was in, and we were talking about, and he was, doing some of his product videos. And one of the people said, you and Matt are really so fun on camera. And they said, you should do something together. I said, yeah, something like a sermon battle, sermon duel. We both do a sermon, and it's like a battle of the bands kind of thing. And then they said, yeah, like a sermon slam. I said, yeah, I like that. And so I said, is Matt still in the building? And they said, yeah, he's downstairs. So we decided we're just going to go get him and bring him up, and we just do this. And so literally from the conception to the idea to us being done, taping the first sermon slam was like 20 minutes. So impromptu. And so we did it, and it was a hit. Like, who knew that many people would have fun watching us be in the moment, silly, and semi-thoughtful on camera. And so, so that was the thing, you just have someone read a scripture, and we're both hearing this. We don't know what scripture they're going to read, and we hear it, and you just respond and see where it goes. And so we've done several now, and they've been really good. Hannah Bonner is a pastor and author of ours, and she still persists that she has bested me in sermon slamming, and I honestly the folks who edit that were generous. She crushed it that day. So, and so that was, I think, just after the election, and we thought, this is how the world might ought to be.
Right. Well, no, that's awesome.
Another idea you could do, you could take off the carpool karaoke, and you could do it in a church van. And church van, either church van karaoke where you do the hymns, or you do like church van slam, sermon slam in a church van kind of thing.
Right, riding in vans with pastors.
Yeah, riding in vans with pastors.
So if this happens, I will give proper attribution. That's not a bad idea.
If you want to take it on a youth ministry level, just put a whole bunch of youth and just record the conversation that they have.
Oh yeah. Yes, you might have to edit some of it out, but yeah, we'll do.
Most of it. I mean, you're going to have to take an 8-hour trip to get like 10 minutes of usable stuff.
True. Take everybody on one of those ski trips to Colorado or something like that.
That's right. No, that's awesome. Yeah, Hannah. We had Hannah back on the podcast this last August when we were in Houston for the global Methodist.
So Methodist, yeah.
Yeah. She was gracious enough to come and talk about her book and some things like that too. So she's cool. It was fun to watch you guys.
Oh yeah, it's when they read that scripture about Hannah that I thought, how is it that I'm like these people and they've totally set me up? Oh my God.
Oh, that's funny. So is there anything else that you want to kind of highlight or talk about what's going on there with you?
Yeah, this is a fun time, I think, for Cokesbury, because what we've seen from the publishing house, if you're going to be in publishing since 1789, it means you've had to do some amazing kinds of adaptations across the years. And so I think that says something of the staying power of the place. But it's a place that's deeply thinking about the current digital context and the ways that people receive information, and trying to just let go of as many traditional ways of thinking about things as we can, and kind of open that up and say, so what do folks really need hanging out in the pews? And so, even things like this new hymnal that'll be coming out, which, in the Methodist Church, it takes a while to do a hymnal because you've got to have at least a couple general conferences approving this thing. And so, but, this idea of saying, what if we created this core content, these core hymns that a diverse group of folks in the life of the church have agreed upon, and then you've got all these other hymns around that and possibilities to pull in. So what if we had this book that had the core hymns, and then say, I'm just making up a number, so don't hold me to this, just making up a number. So say you had 100 hymns that were just going to be in there, and then a possible 200. So, you get to choose 100 and put it together. And if you want it to be in a book, that can be printed and that hymnal sent out to your congregation. Or if you just want to be able to pull all of that from the cloud or to other apps and things like that, you can do that. So that's an example of very old school, traditional. Plenty of people, Chris Tomlin is not getting excited about, the latest hymnal, maybe not, right? So to say we're going to take this very traditional old idea and say we're going to be open about any possible way we can think somebody would want to receive and use this information. And that's, so we're trying to take that kind of thinking and apply it to every product we've got here. So what does that kind of thinking look like for disciple Bible studies? What does that look like for children's curriculum? What does it look like for, whatever it is? And that's really fun and exciting, because when you think about what publishing is going to look like in 10 years, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. And so it's a future that has to be invented, and it's exhilarating, helping folks invent that future.
No, that's awesome. And that's kind of what I've seen from you guys, really taking that approach of, we got to do something different. And, being established for as long as you guys are, we hear it in the local context all the time when we try to create change and do something a little bit different. Oh, we've never done it that way before. Yeah, but we can't let that stop us. And you guys are, from what I've seen on our end in the church, you guys are diving headfirst into that, going, yeah, we may not have done that, but we've got to be inventive. We've got to do something different, because this is changing and we can't get left behind. So that's cool. Love seeing what you guys are doing on that.
It's exciting. And, when you live in a world of, at least sales world, that is so dominated by Amazon, and so when people look at us and are on Cokesbury.com, they say, why can't you be more like Amazon? You're going to have to buy a lot more books for us to have Amazon. But that's not an excuse for us, really. I mean, we've got to be competitive, and I hope that a differentiating factor for us can be that. I mean, it's like going to your favorite coffee shop, right? We want to be your barista, right? So, somebody who knows you deeply, who you know deeply. When you walk in the door, we say, all right, I know what you want. I'm already preparing it, and doing so with an almost artisanal view of care and the creation of it. So, if we can do that, if we can offer useful help to the church in those kinds of ways, I think we'll be all right.
I think so too. I agree. That's I love hearing that from you guys. Straight from the place we're working on it, man. This is who we want to be for you. That definitely shows the thinking outside of the business world and into here's who we want to be for you, pastors and lay people in churches and just people. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's fun. Another thing I might lift up as just so interesting about us is, we are such a big tent as a Methodist church, and then, who we serve beyond the Methodist church. And that's also part of the fun of it, is saying, man, even if you just look at the Methodist church, boy, we've got so many kinds of polarities that that are in ways we mirror, some of the polarities we see in the broader culture. And so, we just try to care for all parts of that continuum. And we like to think we make it look easy, but it can be a challenge. So how do you create an adult curriculum that people in every part of that spectrum would embrace? Yeah, it's a challenge, and but we do it, and that's also part of, I think, the ongoing work, particularly as the Methodist Church, at least, tries to figure out who it's going to be in the future.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah.
As someone, one of my first jobs was in Christian retail. And so I get all the ins and outs of the craziness on the selling side of things. And part of me misses that because it was kind of fun. This was when I was first starting out in my ministry career, and I was working in this little Christian bookstore. And, it was always funny. My best selling points were always the pastors. A pastor would walk in and say, I'm looking for this kind of thing. And I'd get them to buy $50. And now as a pastor, I'm one of those people. When I go to Cokesbury or go to Amazon or something, to buy books, it's like, oh crap, now I'm one of those guys. It's just been fun to see that. My desk right now is full of books.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things I've appreciated with what you all have offered is I really like the church kits when you've got a study coming out and it offers the children and youth and adults. And one of the things that I use it for is that on Wednesday nights we do this program called The Table. Mm-hmm. And in this, it's a multi-generational group. And so we have everyone from, I think our youngest member is 5 to about 60. And what we do is, I'll take that and curate the content from all 3 of those sources to be able to put together a thing. And we do send off the little kids so we can actually have a little bit more of a conversation with youth and adults. And it's been really cool to have that availability to be able to just sit down and do that. Like after Easter, we're planning on using Matt Miosky's Happy. And I'm really excited about getting that and curating content for that. And just really appreciate this. I have to say, I've really appreciated the stuff that's been coming out lately. It's been really good and solid, and my people have been eating it up.
That's good to hear. Yeah, we think it's important. More and more churches are saying that they are doing, be it a sermon series or kind of like you're talking about Wednesday evening event. They're trying to tie together the different things that they're doing across the life of the church for age groups. And so, yeah, that's an ever-evolving conversation for us. We're always talking about, all right, so, what do the churches need? What do you need as you try to do this? What helps you curate these materials? And so it's really fun to feel like you can produce something that can minister to the entire life of the church. And so, yeah, I mean, as you do it and as you're involved in that work of curation, if you got any ideas, let me know.
Will do.
Awesome. Again, man, we appreciate you being on with us. We in your clergy shirt and your bearded glory, man.
I mean, I feel like y'all are my people. We are all, we're certainly brothers in many senses, but this is an awesome group here.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. We have a good time. No matter who's on or if it's just the 2 of us, we have too much fun with this. But we mainly just want to get the word out on some really cool stuff and some really cool people going in the Methodist Church and throughout the world. So our 3 or 4 listeners are really going to dig this.
Hey, virtual fist bumps to all 4.
That's right.
Yeah. Much love.
Well, what's funny is our wives don't even listen. So,
to be fair, they live with us and have to listen to it all.
A continuous podcast.
That's right. They look for the mute button at home.
Well, just so we know that you've got a lot to do because you're obviously busy, and we actually scheduled this time out. So, but we thank you for your time, and realize that anytime if you want to, we offer one of the things that we do with our website is we offer free like a place for someone that wants to write that doesn't have a place. Mm-hmm. We provide that for them, and we've had several different people from all walks of life write for us. That invitation and anytime you want to come on and promote something, feel free that invitation is always open for you.
Thank you. Well, I will take you up on that.
As we bring this podcast to a close, we want to thank Justin and Cokesbury for being a part of this conversation and the United Methodist Publishing House to allow him to be able to come and have hang out with us as we talk about the great stuff that they're doing there. And so before, always with the Bearded Theologians, you can always buy a mug or a t-shirt on our website. We've got some really cool stuff on there. There's some really good content for Lent. The 40 Days of Beardedness is still going on. We hope that you've taken that on and have enjoyed the readings and the prayers and the stuff that we've offered for people to take a little bit deeper journey in their Lenten discipline. And so we just hope that you continue to like us and share us and let people know that we do exist so that way we can have more than just a couple of viewers. But we appreciate everybody that listens. For the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. We hope you've enjoyed listening, and we hope that you share our content online through Facebook and social media, and we hope that you check out our Beardcast store at beardedtheologians.com and pick up some great Bearded Theologians gear. We hope you have a good day.